All right, guys. So I just did I did about 6 minutes of this video already just now, and I was like, this is getting way too Academy Award-winning drama. I felt like I was in Schindler's List or something. You know, it was crazy. I started getting really like emo, like ooh, you know, and I really can't be shown in that light. Not that bitch. Like, there's a bitch meter, and I was just plunged below it. You know? I was doing cartwheels. Like, bitch gymnastics and shit. Now, I was talking about, and I'm going to try to, like, truncate this, shorten it. You know, this last year, it's almost been like an experiment telling stories, right? And at first, it was just like, let me tell stories from point A to point B, and people seem to enjoy that. But then there were moments where I found there could be comedic value, or there were like opportunities to go off on like side rants and provide some commentary about it. Because the things I'm talking about are serious. They may not seem like it. So I'm always talking about butt fuck. I'm like, butt fuck this. Masturbate. It's like very immature humor. Someone told me that recently in Santa Barbara. I ran into some lady. She's like, I watched your YouTube. I was like, Rich. She's like some old conservative lady. Like, really? She's like, yeah. You're immature. And I was like, why do you say that? She's like, all you talk about is anal, masturbation, and gays. I was like, that's all I think about. Sorry. That really happened too. I mean, I think in my hometown, people watch this shit more than, say, not in my hometown. And I don't think it's always good. I think it's like, oh my God, did you see Leone's kid? Whew. He's on there talking about his sexual experiences in federal prison. And they're like, oh my God. And then, you know, they see me. And I'm wearing like jeans and they're ripped and they're like, that's what the gays are wearing. He got turned out in the joint. And then they see Karina and they're like, oh, is this your best friend? I'm like, no, this is my chick. They're like, he must be one of those guys that's into electronic music and swings both ways. One of those raver bisexual guys. This is honest to God what people think, right? There's not a lot of people on YouTube or anywhere for that matter that are that self-deprecating that just don't give a fuck. What more can you do to me? I've been humiliated. I've been fucking, you know, told what a piece of shit I was in prison. Like, out of all the violence and all the worst things that happened physically, being told that I was worthless was the absolute worst part of it, you know? Because you start to believe that. Especially when you're by yourself, you're in solitary confinement, and all you have is your thoughts. They're like, it's almost like an alphabet soup, but it's different like memories from your life. And they form together to make some big macaroni cock. No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea what I was trying to say right there, but I'm still like, what? There was something I was trying to say. You know, when you spend time in isolation, obviously everything that you've done wrong is amplified to a degree because you're by yourself. You have an imaginary friend named Mandy that's into prostate stimulation. And you're like, really? She's like, it's what we do. I'm like, okay. And then the guards walk by. They're fucking sticking a sink in your ass. You're like, whoa, what? Dude, privacy, bro. Goddamn, Leone. Been in solitary for 4 days and cracked. Yeah, that's what I do 4 days in. Imagine when I do 60 days in. Dude, after 60 days, I was losing it. I can't hang. I mean, I already had mental health problems. I need to throw me in there. Point is these videos are confessional for me, but there's a therapeutic aspect to them because it helps to externalize it. If you keep painful stuff, and all of this stuff is painful. Getting jumped in Santa Barbara County, getting my ribs broken, you know, puking and shitting on myself, eating little black pieces of rat shit, and boofing. Let's not leave that out, Leonie. I was boofing. Scraps of other rodent shit, shoving them in my anal cavity, hoping that it would give me some sort of like relief from the horrible withdrawal that I was going through. And I remember crying so many times, crying into like this infinite corridor. And I'm not talking about in a literal sense. I'm talking about you fucking feel like you're the only person alive on earth and that nobody outside of that sphere that you're imprisoned in gives a fuck about you, because that's how you think. You feel so worthless and so stripped of dignity. How could anybody care about me? That leaves a long-term lasting effect on you. I mean, I didn't become a drug addict because I was confident. You know, it's not like I looked in the mirror, I was like, damn, homie, those hits are fucking fire. Blackhead, bomb. Oh, drugs? I'm cool, homeboy. I feel good about myself. No. I looked in the mirror. I saw an acne-riddled pervert. I knew I masturbated too much. So what? You know, I knew I was different. But that insecurity is what I firmly believe leads to addiction for everybody. It does not matter who it is. Addiction stems from insecurity. That's where it comes from, you know. And I'm gonna get into the story soon, but I don't know. I was depressed for a while. The depression is finally coming back. Like that last monologue where I was talking about like pedophiles and QAnon and all that, I felt like maybe my personality was coming back a bit. And it was really difficult. Like my personality was gone. I was up in Lake Arrowhead or Big Bear trying to do a video one day. I just couldn't do it. I was like dead, you know. And I was really depressed, and I was like, and I'm getting all these messages, and people are tripping on me, and they're just like, you're a bitch. And I'm like, I am a bitch. And then Karina's like, you're a fucking bitch. And I'm like, oh my God, why do you have to say fucking before that? Makes me feel even more of one. She's like, and then she starts saying shit in Spanish, probably bitch, queer, all this stuff. When she gets mad in Spanish. So anyway, what was the point of this? There was a point. You know, I read this book when I was in Canada. This is the last point. This is an important point, I think. If you're not an addict, I think that this might help you understand where addiction comes from. And if you are an addict, maybe you'll have like the same revelatory experience hearing this information as I did when I first read it. I was in Santa Barbara County Jail by myself, isolation. Had me in front central. Broken ribs, kicking Suboxone, right? That was when that black guy was across from me and I was having him call my girl and was like getting at her or whatever. He gave me a book. That guy slid me a book called The 5 Languages of Love. I think it was the 5. Might be 7. I don't fucking know. It's the only book that I had. So, you know, I'm kicking, and when you're kicking, it's really hard to read because you're essentially sneezing shit out of your asshole. You know, you're just like sitting there like, and it just sprays, dude. And then it stinks because all of your sense, just like if you're kicking heroin or any opiate, is just amplified. So you smell the rancidness of everything. But I was reading this book. It was talking about how everybody has a love tank. So every human has a tank, just like a car does, what you put gas into. But the fuel that makes your soul healthy, makes you okay, makes you well-adjusted is love. You know, you go to AA, they say that it's a spiritual malady. I always say that prison's an ego malady. But there's a love malady that encompasses all of it. So if that tank wasn't filled correctly, and everybody interprets love differently. So, you know, Karina may need, you know, I don't know. She may need to get her ass licked and then me give her a present. Another person may want me to write them a poem. You know, there's different ways to express it. But the point is there's this love tank. When it's not full, when there's a deficit of any kind, when you're not feeling loved, you have a void that you're trying to fill. And that's what addiction is trying to fill that love tank. Insecurity, feeling of inadequacy, depletes that love tank. You know, whatever you have in there, it goes away. You feel emptier. And then your whole life, you're trying to search for something to fill that void. You do something like heroin or crack, you're so fucked off, you don't even know there is a love tank. You know, you think love tank's like a fucking, I don't know, a jungle band or something. Jungle band? I don't know. EDM band, something like that. I think you don't even have EDM band. So that's what I learned, and I'm going to get to the story now. So this story, it's going to be for all tiers again. I really want to do in the beginning of the month, just hook everybody up. You know, start storylines, continue them for upper tiers, but at least give you guys content every day. That's what I would like to do. I'm going to make an effort to do a video a day, a monologue and a video every day. I'd like to get to a point where I'm doing 3 videos a day, not including monologues. That'd be a total of 4 uploads. Give me a chance to develop, you know. For those of you that have stuck with me, I'm so fucking grateful. You have no idea. You know, sometimes I get depressed, though, and I just can't perform. You know, it's not like I don't have the stories. The shit that I lived, I just don't have the energy to tell them. And I felt like I kind of came back on the last monologue. So let me get into the story. This story in particular, the reason there was such a long introduction is I've been thinking about Paul a lot lately. You know, before he died, I did a video about him where I talked about how I met him. And then at the end of that video, I showed a clip of him getting set on fire because he had made a underground film called Kill Horse. It was like Jackass, but much darker. Smashing cop car windows, mayhem, debauchery, Fight Club influenced anarchistic shit. Badass. Skateboarding, all the stuff that I grew up, the cultures like graffiti, you know, I grew up in the graph community, skateboarding, underground hip hop, punk. All the kind of counterculture interests that I have were all shown in that film. So when I had met him, and I talked about this in this video, this is going to be a second Paul video, and this is going to be the last one, and I probably will put this on YouTube at some point. I may cut the monologue, just go straight to the story. But what had happened, just for a brief summary, is when I was 18, I had my first girlfriend. That's when I stole the savings bonds, had a wild time, bought a kilo of cocaine, was just out of control drug addict. Hardcore. Like, I look back at that, I just can't believe an 18-year-old was like going that hard. Kilo of coke on the table, hoovering it with my nose. I called 911 because I thought that I hallucinated that all of my teeth spilled out of my face. They're like, "Sir, are you on any mind-altering substances?" I was like, "I have no teeth," and they can see my teeth. There's piles of cocaine on the fucking table, and they hand me a brochure about narcotic addiction. I was like, I'm offended. I don't even have teeth, you know, I'd be mad or whatever. So when she left me, and that's a great story, by the way, in my opinion. That was from when I was 18. When she told me that her dad had molested her and I was on acid, and I flew from Santa Barbara to Boston, showed up at his house. He ended up beating me up. He's a tall guy. I'm bitch made. Hey, what's up? What you trying to do? And then, okay. Sorry, I was just getting a message. So when she left me, after all that, when I showed up at her college, and it's all really, in my opinion, that's some of my better stories, right? I became homeless. I just went. I mean, when she left me, my heart was shattered. That was my first love, and it literally ripped my heart out. I felt like Mortal Kombat. It's just like that, like crucified, naked, little cock. And then so she just rip my fucking heart out. Finish him. I was like, no. Like, now I'm this small dick guy. I don't even have a heart. I didn't really have a dick. It didn't even, like, count. It was, like, a bullshit one. You know? It's like the kind of, you couldn't even cheat because it's so small. Rumors of your small cock will circulate the community, and then you're busted because, well, it's that small where people talk about it. So I couldn't do that. You know, I didn't cheat on her. Actually, I did. But it doesn't matter. A long time. Okay, so I did cheat on her. She cheated on me too. It's just, you know, first relationship kind of thing. That was a big turning point in my life because I was heartbroken. And if you've experienced a heartbreak, which most people have, you wake up feeling empty. That's the exact feeling, by the way, that going to prison feels like, or when you catch a case. You wake up feeling empty. There's no light ahead, you know? If you see ponies and rainbows before, you see a dead carcass of a pony and a clown jerking off or something with like rainbow jizz coming out. He's like, ha ha! And you're like, fuck, I don't even have a heart. It's full jizzing rainbows. Wish I could do that. I would probably feel better if I could do that. I was already bad into cocaine back then. Shooting cocaine, complete weirdo. Like, you know, like you're talking to your friend, you're like, dude, would it be weird if we just took our pants off? And your friend's like, dude, get some sleep, homeboy. And you're like, oh, for sure. And then, you know, shit like that, right? I had just dabbled in heroin. I was addicted to it in high school. I started shooting it out in Boston. But I had never been like completely like almost like Sid Vicious down the tubes. Like I didn't have an IV connected to me wearing like a hospital gown, but that's what I was, if you know what I mean. I was just 8. 0 fucks given. Would have sucked a dick if it got in my path. Junkie. The worst. Like wear signs in the ghetto like, oh, suck dick. And like people are like, ew, that guy has acne. I was like, no. Nobody ever offered me that. Probably wouldn't do it. I'm just kidding. Like that's pretty gnarly. Like a dick in front of you and you're just like, dude, I'm going to suck that for dope. That's when you know you probably shouldn't do that anymore. That's like probably like nobody even has to tell you you're fucking up. Like you know, dick spin in your mouth. You should probably give drugs up if you're heterosexual, which I am. All right. So anyway, what had happened is I ended up becoming homeless. That homeless period was completely self-imposed. Got a warrant after I'd run out of the courtroom. I ended up going and living with those gay tweakers. Like when I joke about homosexuality and crystal meth, dude, I've been around some weird shit with that drug. I mean, they call it queer juice. It is not much like, that's just a weird scene, you know? Heroin addicts don't do that. They don't even fuck. You know, you'll find heroin addict couples that haven't fucked since the 90s. You know? They listen to like Blind Melon. Yeah, sex. It's alright. When's the last time you fucked? Before Kurt Cobain shot himself. You're like, Jesus, dude, that was like 24 fucking years ago, you know? And that's what heroin does. It completely kills your libido. Crystal meth's the opposite. You know? You get hypnotized by shit. You will lick an asshole for 9 hours. You don't even care. You know, like, there's no more sweat coming out of you. You become a skeletal fucking shell of a tweaker. And you're just like, ugh, and then your tongue just stops working. Dude, I've eaten girls out for so long that, like, my jaw's fucking injured. And I'm sure chicks have sucked dick and the same shit's happened. Like, your tongue swiping so much that your mouth just, like, stops working. And then it's a bust because your parents are like, are you on meth? And you're like, nah. Why are you talking like that? It's, and you like can't even yell because you're your fucking mouth doesn't work because you've eaten pussy for 9 hours or something, which is, not common unless you're doing that. So that's kind of the lifestyle I was living at the time, homeless, living in like these like weird tweaker encampments, was dating strippers back then. I don't know why. I was a ratchet ass kid with like long hair and just whitehead spewing out of my cheeks and shit. But the strippers, I don't know. I mean, I always had hustle, I always like made sure we got a hotel. I always had the dope. I always made sure that the dope is the priority above the shelter. I'm like, fuck it. If we're high enough, we don't need shelter. And that always made sense to my girlfriends. Like, I would have never thought of that. It's fucking brilliant. Let's get some meth. And you're like, okay. And then that's what you do. So that was like my street lifestyle. I ended up meeting Paul, and I had explained it in the other video. I meet Paul. He looks like Trent Reznor at the time. And when I was outside smoking a cigarette before this, I was thinking that I'm probably going to cry in this story. Because it's painful. And I've told the story, and I'm going to get to it when he died and everything. I'm going to cover that in this story. But it's really painful for me. So if I do cry, just go ahead and call me a punk. Like, only punks have emotions for dead friends. I'll be like, oh, all right, for sure. So I met him. He looked like Trent Reznor. He's dating this chick, Stacy. I talked all about it in the earlier video. He basically just took me off the street. We hit it off right away. But I was so deep in my heroin addiction that I ended up burning his friend for like, I don't know, $3,000 worth of acid. I saw that guy at the funeral. Later, when I became a drug dealer, when I started selling all that Molly, I actually cleared that debt with this guy. Like I always did shit like that. Like I'd burn someone and be like, dude, I'm sorry I burned you. Here, I'll make it up. I do that to this day. If I fucking lag on sending you something, I will go out of my fucking way to make you happy because I like feel bad. It's not about the money. Believe me, it is not. I'm just super disorganized and I fucking lose stuff and like, it's bad. But anyway, I've always been like that. Like I'll fuck up and then I'll try to make it right. Go out of my way too. But the point is I burned him, and when I had first met him, he showed me Kill Horse. So he showed me this badass shit. Him stealing cop badges, Hey, how was getting arrested, Paul? He's like, it was all right. Check out what I ganked while I was in there. And he pulls out the sergeant badge. You can see this shit. Kill Horse, Paul Harper. You can see it on YouTube. Definitely using a lot of it in the documentary. So I saw that, and back in that time, I had gotten into that writing program in Boston. So I had ability to write. Knew that from a young age. I got published at 9, but I didn't want to do that. It seemed so whack. It seemed like a lifetime of missionary sex. Like, well, I don't know. Do you think maybe you could bend over? You're objectifying me, Ryan. No. I'm voting Biden. And they like go back to their Jonathan Franzen novel or some shit. That's what I thought being a writer would be. Right. I wanted to be a rock star because I would think, I'm like, what do I like? I like drugs, I like sex, and that's it. That's all I like. Music's cool too, and traveling. Being a rock star seemed to encompass all of those things. And writing just didn't seem like a realistic pathway. But the film industry did. Because it's more, it reaches the masses. It has a wider scope, right? So when I met Paul, I just had this delusion that him and I were going to become famous underground filmmakers. The reason that I wanted that at that time, and various points in my life, I talk about it in Wasting Talent, I just want to be left the fuck alone. I'd watch TV when I was a kid, and they'd be like, Robert Downey Jr. got caught smoking crack again. And then, like, the other news lady would be like, he's just such a talented actor. He certainly is. We wish Robert Downey the best. I'd be like, dude, if I smoked crack, I'd be in county jail. This dude, like, it's... like, he'd get bailed out immediately. It just seemed like if you were famous or if you were a somebody, you could get away with stuff. That is completely honestly why I was chasing that at a young age. Nothing to do with creativity. Was I creative back then? I think so. I have journals where I'd write short stories. I've uploaded it on Patreon. I think it's on the $20 tier. Journal I had from that time. And I did poems and I did drawings. And I think I was creative to a point, but it was more about getting to a place where everyone left me the fuck alone. And Paul seemed like that outlet. But my addiction, I was going this way. My addiction was like, we're going over here, bro. Hail heroin. I'm like, oh, all right, yeah. Fuck yeah. Fuck my life. And I just ended up burning him. Like $3,000, his friend, right? Later, and I don't remember how far I got in the story. But that's why I'm kind of like retelling it. But this is like all important stuff to me because this was like a brother to me. After I burned him, that's when I ended up going to Florida. I went to Florida to try to get help. I went out there legitimately because I hit a spot where I was like crawling on the ground, looking through gum wrappers, thinking I was going to find like a shard of meth to boof. And I was looking for heroin, but I had reached a bottom. I go out to Florida. Florida was horrible. Mike Virgin, somebody died right in front of me. Traumatizing, right? It's a traumatizing period. Then I catch a case out there. We're in the middle of that Florida storyline. And I will get back to it. But like this particular story, I just felt like I needed like the therapeutic benefit from it. So I hope you enjoy where this is going to go. When I remember I owed time in Santa Barbara County, right? So after I was in Florida jail, I got out and my parents flew me back to Santa Barbara with the caveat that I would turn myself into Santa Barbara County Jail the next day. I did 60 days in a horrible, got jumped multiple times, got my ass beat, maced, all that shit, beat up a fucking dude that propositioned me. All this shit went down, right? And now my parents are telling me that I got to turn myself in. Well, I had 60 days of quasi-sobriety, so I was in a clear headspace. So I all right, fly home to Santa Barbara. I remember I get to my parents' house and I found like a half gram of blow, random, like in my room. I was like, what? Put it in a spoon, started shooting coke all night. Bad idea when you're going to turn yourself in. They let me have one night free, right? Next morning, I've been shooting coke all night. My dad ends up taking me to county jail. I remember I had to ring the doorbell. There's like this doorbell. It's like, felt like it was some Wizard of Oz shit. It's just this big wall. There's like this little button. You're like, and you just hear a voice go, yes. And you're like, I'm here to turn myself in. Proceed. And like the door just like opens. My dad's like, all right, see you soon. We thought maybe I'd do like a week or something, a couple weeks, probation violation. No. Granted, I ran out of the courtroom with cop chasing me. So I end up going to court. I end up going into jail. Of course, come on, guys. Fucking going right. But I only brought a gram because that's all I could afford. So, of course, when I get there, I'm the man. Solid. Bless everybody with the little issue. We all get high. We run out. Hate our lives. Like, oh my God, there's nothing worse than a drug come down when you're in jail. An unexpected, you're just hating life. Some kid brings heroin up his asshole. You're like, I love life. And then right back to, oh my God. I'd do anything to get out of this right now. Judge is like, anything? Yeah, man. Well, get to it, buddy. You're like, oh my God. And then, you go on to work at carnivals and shit like that. Give away Tasmanian devil stuffed animals to people and you have no teeth. You're just like, here, take Taz, right? All right. So anyway, sorry, I'm getting messages. So I end up going to court, right? Again, I think I'm going to get a week or two. I just did 60 days in jail. Here I am turning myself in on a warrant. Warrant's like a year old. Go to court. It was like, I remember it was 2 or 3 weeks before Christmas, right? I go in there, my mom's in there. My mom and some chick in high school, randomly, just in court. I don't know. It's just, they were the only two people there. It was weird. And they weren't sitting together. So, my mom's sitting there. This other girl's there. Judge is in, my attorney's there. I'm in custody. Judge is like, Mr. Leone, you ran out of our courtroom. We can charge you with felony evading. And your attorney has the audacity to ask for release? I swear to God, it felt like I was in some medieval anal rape thing. Felt like something that gnarly was about to happen. Like, just the way, like, he was mad. Like, his veins were, he's like, and you're asking for release. Straight to your asshole. Like, it felt like that was going to happen. That's not what happened. My attorney asked for immediate release. Judge was like, fuck no. He's like, how dare you? Are you suggesting, no, remember that guy? Are you suggesting that Mr. Leone gets out? He's a fucking dope fiend. He didn't call me a dope fiend. What did he call me? Some crap. He is a drug user. I think that's what he said. He like pointed to me and I was just like, well, I am. Yep, I'm a drug user. I'm gonna give you the maximum penalty, drug user. 4 months. It's 2 weeks before Christmas, right? I've been sentenced to 5 years. I've been sentenced to 3 years. That 4 months broke me. I just did 60 days. Broke me. I know who sells heroin in Santa Barbara. Shut up, drug user. Off to jail. I'm like, fuck. Pretty sure I cried. I don't remember. This is a long time ago, but I'm pretty sure that I did. So, I ended up doing 4 months in Santa Barbara County. I was in this spot called Back Central 4, general population. I remember getting there and there was like these old guys, like real convicts. You know? They didn't know I had heroin. This is the first night I got there. Hey, man. What's your deal, brother? You know, trying to like intimidate me. I'm like, look, man, I'm just here to suck dudes off. I'm trying to find some dong to suck. And that big smile, they're like, come here, kid. You're in the club, you know? And I was like, well, I also have heroin on my ass. They're like, get him here. And they're like kissing the top of my head. I was pretty popular in there, you know, with these like older guys, and I beat a couple people up as torpedo. I was that guy, you know, I was the youngster. Dude would come in and be like, that guy's a child molester. No paperwork, just here. Yeah, fuck you. And just I'd take off on him. Probably karmically why I got smashed out at that same jail. You know, I didn't do multiple people, but there was one. There's no need not to tell the story. So what happened is I was there for probably like, I don't know, a week, whatever. I got sentenced to 4 months. We already did the heroin, probably like the first day that I was there. We're just putting in a spoon, putting up our nose. I mean, when you bring heroin into jail, you're the man, you know? If you're the kind of person that doesn't have friends, buy heroin, put it up your ass, go to jail on purpose, you'll have a lot of friends. Promise. They will not be your friends when you run out of heroin. It's the catch. But, you know, because I brought that in, and like people don't forget that. And back then, you could still smoke cigarettes on the Honor Farm, Santa Barbara County Jail. So there's this other area, it was badass. They had a weight pile, outside picnic table with like tin cans where you could smoke cigarettes. It was dope. Remember, that's where I found out that Hunter S. Thompson had died. Saw it on the news when I was up there. Not on this term. This was, or not, it went that time. And, you know, I just remember like being heartbroken. Really, I felt like I knew him. You know, it was like a really big influence on me in my writing and everything. But you could smoke cigarettes up there. But in general population, in the tanks where we were, no cigarettes. So that day that I got sentenced to 4 months, it's considered like good etiquette if you're on the farm and you're a white dude, to shoot some tobacco to the dudes in the tank. Whoever you see, you don't even have to know the guy. Hey, what's up, dude? Here, shoot him the tobacco. That day that I got sentenced, someone gave me a fat rolled cigarette. They're all, here, dog. I was like, cool. I remember I put in the slit of my boxers and I was so scared that I was going to get caught. Never mind the fact I just brought a gram of heroin up my ass like, a week before that. But so, these guys like me. This guy comes in, he's missing an ear. Not to be confused with the guy that's missing an ear that was my cellie at Victorville the second time I was there. This guy's missing an ear. He looks like Ernest. Remember Ernest Goes to Camp? But this was like Ernest goes to parks and exposes himself. It was like Ernest the child molester. He looked like a chomo. He looked like a fucking, like he'd wear overalls and like bring children to fucking abandoned car lots. Shit like that. He looked like that kind of guy. Rep was like this old guy. His name was Jan. He was about to do like 8 years for an armed robbery. He was a heroin addict. It's cool as fuck though to me. Like he like looked at me as like his son. And he's all, hey man, that guy right there. Yeah, he fucks kids, dog. We ain't gonna let that fly. Nah, you're gonna have to get him. Are you ready to put some work in, kid? I was like, ready as I'll ever be, Dad. I used to call him, yeah, Dad. Shut up, Dad. Just like fucking with him. So I go up to this guy and I'm like, hey, man, can I see your paperwork? He's like, I don't have it. He had child molester breath. You could just tell this fool was fucked up, I was like, you don't have your paperwork. Well, you gotta leave, bro. Can't be in this tank if you don't have paperwork. He's all, he really says, that's a bunch of malarkey. I was like, malarkey? What the fuck? Bam! And I just cracked him, right? Bam! Ooh, that fucking didn't feel good. Punched him. Bam! I got him like, I don't know, probably like right above the ear. I hit the side of his head because I remember it hurt my hand. I hit him not very hard. I weighed like 130, 140 pounds at the time, but he staggered, right? And Jan's a big guy. Jan comes up and he's like, what's up? And he had his shirt off, all blasted with prison work. Dude's like, all right, I'll go. And just walked up to the bars and he left. That was the only time I did that. I made another kid roll it up, but I didn't beat him up. I forget what that shit. I don't even remember what it was about. I don't even remember. Oh yeah. I guess this dude there's this other guy that had killed someone by accident for drunk driving, and this guy was in there for vandalism. And he was like, at least I don't kill innocent people, you piece of shit. And this dude was like looking at like 25 years or something, for whatever, like vehicular manslaughter. But he had already done that before. It's like his second one. And we made him leave, and I just told him to leave. But anyway, while I was there, my dad he made me a deal. He said, listen, I'm going to get you an apartment anywhere you want in the country. You got to go to college. It's the deal. Community college. I want you to get your education. You're intelligent. There's no need to throw it away. Where do you want to go? You can go to Hawaii, anywhere. I don't care as long as you're in school. I'll get you an apartment, pay for it, pay for college, all of that. Like, my parents were so good to me and I just squandered it. It's actually really painful just to think about how good they've been to me throughout the years. And just how much I just fucked it off. I took it for granted. But anyway, I thought, my mind, I really thought that I was going to make it big with Paul. Paul was going to be my ticket. Me and him were going to be we were going to be like these underground filmmakers. Now, my whole film idea at that time, I had this girl that I was talking to. She was pretty platonic. We didn't hook up ever. And I was kind of sensationalizing it for the sake of the film. She lived in the Midwest. And I wanted to get in my Volvo, do a bunch of drugs, mushrooms, show it all, drive cross country to go like find this long lost love. I thought it was going to be like just this beautiful cinema verite statement. Completely romanticizing drug use, right? Because back then, the consequences were bad, but they didn't feel like they do nowadays. You know, now I'm I don't know, just the whole thing is gross, you know? I look at heroin as a very destructive thing. You know, I don't really romanticize it in my mind or glorify it anymore, but I did for a long time. That's just part of being addicted. So that was my plan. And I had not talked to Paul since I burned him. I didn't even know if he lived in Monterey. I remember that was where he was from. I told my dad, I said, I want to go to Monterey. He's like, cool, got you. I get out of jail, and probably like within the first week, I've relapsed on heroin in Santa Barbara. I remember someone gave me an eighth of mushrooms as like a going away present. I don't remember who, probably Jeff. Yeah, I think it was Jeff. Gave me like an eighth of mushrooms. Here you go. When you get up there, trip if you find Paul. No, I'm pretty sure it was Jeff. So we go up to Monterey. My dad gets me a decent apartment, you know, like a 1-bedroom, and he just leaves me there. You know, I have like a TV with a VHS thing included in it. My dad bought me a couch, a bed, and that's about all I had. You know, I had an eighth of mushrooms. I didn't even have Paul's phone number, and this is like MySpace days, right? No Facebook or anything. I get in my car, I have my Volvo, get in my car, and find this motherfucker. He's homeless. Like, the chances that I would find this guy in a city that I didn't even know if he lived in or not, I just went around looking for him and found him. If you can appreciate how that is so crazy to me, right? I knew that he was from there. Didn't know that he lived there. No idea he was homeless. I found him. I was like, hey, Paul. You know what I mean? He's like, Ryan? I was like, hey, man, what's up? I was in my car. He was at like a school or library or some shit, but he was homeless. He was like, hey, how you doing? And I told him that I moved here. I was like, I got an apartment. He's like, I'm fucking homeless. I said, not anymore. Come on, man. You're going to live with me. He's like, are you serious? I was like, absolutely. And we hugged. And I was like, I'm sorry that I burned you, you know, or burned your friend. And he was like super humble and grateful that I took him in off the street. So he became my roommate. And right away, I was already doing heroin. And Paul was a bottom of the barrel alcoholic. Like the most real alcoholic I've ever seen. Get the shakes, all that, right? He had no money, so what we would do is we'd go to the pharmacy, this is before they had like sensors on the bottles. I mean, just grab a fifth, walk out. I'd watch him do that every day. He was drinking, I don't know, 2 or 3 fifths of vodka a day. And I started drinking it with him. Him and I would get in fist fights. We'd get drunk and he'd just hit me. Bam! Or like I would just sucker punch him. We were very rough with each other. And around that time, I started talking to Megan again. You know, the one that set me up in Florida. And she was on the methadone clinic. And yes, the video with her, I promise, is coming. There's legal shit, dude. I committed fucking crimes. We have to do it a certain way. It's complicated. But anyway, I was talking to her again. And she, you know, apologized. She's like, listen, I was on drugs. This is while Paul's living with me. I was on drugs. I'm in love with you. I want to be with you. And she would tell me weird stuff. She's like, I want to get a blow-up doll of a guy that has a cock. I want you to suck it, and I want you to drink fake cum out of it. I was like, I'm not down with that. Are you serious? Like, what the fuck? She's like, well, my ex-husband was into that. I said, well, that checks out, you know? So her and I start talking, and Paul is, Paul's living with me. Now, right from the get-go, we get into heroin. I'm already doing it. He's drinking. My dad's sending me money, like an allowance, but it's not enough to sustain a heroin habit. You know, it's like he'll send me, I don't know, $100 a week, something like that. You know, enough to get cigarettes and food. We're living off Jack in the Box and Top Ramen. So we started boosting from Home Depot, you know, we'd steal chainsaws. We had this whole little system, and then we'd have to drive to Salinas, and you know, which is like, I don't know, 30 minutes away from Monterey, and it's in this like kind of agricultural town, but it's super hood. It's a very dangerous place. A lot of really bad stuff happens there. It's just, you know, it's ghetto. I mean, Northern California is rocking and rolling. You know, I didn't know that until I lived there, but it's hardcore there. So I'm talking to Megan during this time. And you good, babe? I'm talking to Megan during this time. And she's telling me that, you know, she was on drugs and now she's on methadone. She's still in love with me. Now, being the codependent, love tank empty fuck that I am, I forgive her. She admits to me that Mike Virgin she started prostituting for Mike. You know, she admits this shit. She's like, yeah, I was working for him after he left. I forgave all this. So Paul and I are boosting. I'm talking to her every day. And it's kind of driving him nuts because he's sleeping on my couch and I'm talking to this girl and he knows the history of it. He knows that she's just a complete J-cat. He can't understand why I would even talk to someone like that. At the time, he's kind of dating this girl that was like a drug dealer. She'd come over. She had everything. Ketamine, coke, meth. She sold heroin. And Paul was hooking up with her, you know, during that time. But he was getting really annoyed that I was talking to Megan. Now, remember, Megan's a pathological liar. So she decides that, you know, she's going to come out and see me. Tells me the flight number, tracking, all that. I'm like, all right, cool. We'll pick you up. It was going to be in San Francisco. We wake up early that day, which was unusual for Paul and I. Go to Home Depot. We boost. We get a bunch of heroin. She doesn't know I'm using. We drive out to San Francisco. We get there. She's not there. And she's saying that her flight was delayed because of fog. I call the airlines. That's bullshit. It wasn't delayed and it went there. She made the whole thing up. I stopped talking to her. I shouldn't have talked to her to begin with, but I'm so codependent and I always need someone that, like, I tried to entertain this notion that, like, maybe it would be different and, like, you know, this is a girl that set me up. I could have been killed because of this girl. All of that Florida jail shit was because of her. You know, she never really admitted that part of it, but she admitted that she, you know, that she had done some bad things and she apologized. So that was kind of like the end of that. Now, there's a lot of stuff that happened during the Monterey period, but I wanna get to, I didn't realize, you know, telling all this stuff, I'm realizing there's so much to it. Like, so much stuff happened. I may as well just tell it in linear order, you know? So, around that time, there was this guy, I forget what his name was, but he was a hacker. He's a computer hacker. A real deal one. Like, he rollerbladed and hacked. That was like his thing. He's like, dude, I'm going to go blading, and then I'm going to rip off credit card numbers from Russia. We're like, all right, bro. So he was a hacker, rollerblader, raver. He was a DJ at Raves. So he would get these VIP tickets to these. We started going to ridiculous fucking rave parties in San Francisco. And because he was the DJ, we got in for free at all of them, pretty much. And I've told the story about when we went to Pac-Man and Paul shot the chocolate. I don't know if I've ever told the story of that rave specifically. I'll do that another time, you know, but it was pretty wild. Jeff's like, I don't know if I've ever told that story, but Jeff says that that's one of the better stories, but I will do that one at some point. Remind me. So we start going to raves all the time, and my heroin addiction's getting really, really bad. You know, it's getting to the point where I'm probably doing 3 grams of black tar a day. And the heroin that's up in Monterey is a lot different. Plus, I'm nursing Paul because Paul is going through, like, real deal alcoholism. You know? And, so anyway, you know, he would wake up shaking with the bottle, and I'd have to put it in his mouth like he was a baby. And he would tremble and vodka would pour down his chin. It was literally like Nicolas Cage in Leaving Las Vegas. my heroin addiction was getting really bad. I overdosed while I was out there. And it wasn't, anything like too memorable. What had happened is, Paul's ex was this girl, Stacy. And I had seen guys with bleached hair that had leopard spots on their hair. I thought that it looked cool. I was like into the Misfits and, suicidal tendencies. I was into punk rock still. I was going through like a punk rock phase. So she was like a really good hair designer. And she said that she would do it for me. Now she happened to be with one of my exes. And they came over to do my hair. And she asked me if I could get heroin. I was like, absolutely. So we ended up going to Salinas together. We come back. Paul wasn't there at the time. And I just did a shot. I woke up in the hospital. I did a shot with them and I fucking went out. That was it. I got Narcan and then I went right back to using. So Paul and I did mushrooms the first night, that I had found him, but I'll leave all that stuff to the psychedelic series. And we really, our lifestyle, my addiction was awful. I'm overdosing. I'm stealing shit chronically. Now I'm going to school. You're probably like, well, were you going to college? Probably went to like 5 classes and then I just gave up. It was just impossible to be in community college while I was strung out that bad. Later, when I was a drug dealer, I started taking college classes, but I was stable. But at this point, I wasn't stable because this girl that Paul was seeing was shooting cocaine as well. And his ex-girlfriend hooked me up with an Asian chick, and we started dating kind of for a little bit. But like I said, my addiction, it got like out of control. It got to a point where there were certain mornings where I couldn't find the energy to get up, boost, and then go score. It was an ordeal. It took 3 hours to do all that. So what I would do is I'd go to the hospital and I would just scream. I'd have an abscess. There's that Shaky Jake blotter. The story behind that is I had this abscess by my crotch because I was shooting up in my crotch. I got this bad abscess. Jeff took that picture and then he did the drawing. What I would do is I'd get that particular abscess because it was like this big scab, and I would just rip it apart so bad that blood was just pouring out of my crotch. And I'd go to the hospital and I would not tell them what was wrong. I'd be like, I'm bleeding and I don't know why. And I'd just be acting crazy. I'd be like, you gotta do something for the pain. You gotta do something for the pain. And they'd shoot me up with Dilaudid. Well, that only works a few times. I basically got blacklisted from the hospitals. There's only so many hospitals that'll do that for you. But that's like the severity of where my addiction had come. And, Paul was so bad on alcohol, but he was now on heroin because of me. He'd always done heroin, but now that he had a place to live and he had like someone to boost with, we just exasperated each other's addictions. We started going to a lot of rave parties. We went to Pac-Man. It was interesting to be involved with the rave, like the real rave culture. There's raves everywhere, but there's nothing like San Francisco and Houston. Miami's got some badass ones too. Been to them all over. The LA raves aren't anything like San Francisco raves. It's the real deal. You'll see people walking around naked. You'll see dudes butt fucking each other to trance. And they're like, yeah. And they're talking in some accent, but they don't even have an accent. Weird shit like that. Taking GHB, ketamine, Molly, lots of acid. And one day, we go to a rave. One night, we go to a rave. And my addiction was to the point where I was yelling at Paul a lot. I was really depressed. I was miserable. I wasn't going to college, so I was taking that out on myself. I was mad at myself for not going to college. And I was mad what I was doing to my parents, and I was just mad that I'd become such a bad junkie. So I took a lot of that out on Paul, and I was an asshole to him. Jeff said that I treated him like shit during that period. like almost like a servant. Like I made him like make me soups, or I won't give you a shot, you know, shit like that. I just became like infantile or whatever. So we go to this rave, and I took acid. So did Paul. We both took L, dropped it, and like that was, he didn't really like acid, but once in a while, if we were going to a rave, he would take it if we did Molly, you know? That was like Paul and I's thing. We like to candy flip, mix ecstasy with LSD, you know? And so we go to this rave. I forget what the theme was, but it was one of those raves where it was like a foam party. Like people were naked, they had foam machines, everybody's rolling, we were on acid. It was crazy. We end up going to this after party. Like that's very typical in the rave culture. After the big party that's at the warehouse, like these are like super illicit, like the cops come and break them up, fire department will come type places. Just like in my book, you know, you'd have to call to get directions, but the number would only let you call once. And then you'd have to meet someone like on a certain street and they'd give you further directions. Like it was very complex to filter out law enforcement. And I've been to raves in LA where they got raided by the DEA, and it was pretty crazy. I mean, I could do a whole series just on raves too. I've been to probably like 50 of them, you know? But this particular one, we go to this after party. We were in Daly City, which is like a suburb of San Francisco. It's like 7 a.m. All these raver chicks, all these gay dudes, right? Gay dudes are like sucking on like whipped cream off like balloons, like those like long balloons. And like, you know, they're like, you're seeing guys like one guy has a banana in his mouth and the other guy has it on the other end. And they're like doing like the, you know, Lady and the Tramp shit. And everybody's snorting ketamine. You know, so everybody's, and I'm still on acid. Acid lasts for like 16 hours. And that's one of the problems with candy flipping, you know. It's a super pleasurable, blissful experience when you're on the Molly. But then when it dissipates and you just have the acid, it can be kind of frightening because it creeps up on you. You don't really realize how hard you're tripping. And that's kind of like how this particular trip was. You know, I'm watching these guys sucking whipped cream off balloons and shit, eating bananas, just all these like straight up hardcore gay raver people, which is like whatever, but it's interesting when you're tripping, you know. It's like, I don't know, I don't want to say like it wigs you out, but to some degree, you know, it was uncomfortable, I guess is probably the way to say it. And so Paul starts talking to some girl, you know, and they're talking, they end up leaving, going into a room. I'm like, all right, Paul's gonna fuck her. You know, I mean, we've been to like, in so many situations like this. I'm like sitting there just tripping out on all these people. You know, there's just all this weird stuff happening. Sorry, I keep getting messages from people. By the way, if you message me, a lot of times I don't even see it. The only time I really look at shit is when I'm like sitting here doing the videos, you know? So it's a good time to do it at night. A few hours go by. I don't see Paul. I'm looking for him everywhere. I'm still tripping. I have my car there. I don't find him. Turns into the afternoon. Everybody's asleep. Everybody's naked and sprawled out everywhere. I don't find Paul. Like, what the fuck? Disappeared. I mean, I'm still on acid, you know? So I get in my car and I go back to Monterey. Kind of just dumbfounded. I'm like, I lost Paul. Like, how am I going to explain that to people? Like, hey, Jeff. No, Paul doesn't live here. What do you mean? Well, I lost him. Huh? Well, I took him to a party and there were gay dudes, you know, sucking whipped cream off balloons, and then I don't know, you never saw it. I never saw Paul again. I think he's probably sucking a balloon somewhere, you know. I mean, there was really no explanation for it. That's when my addiction took the worst turn that it possibly could. Paul and I had a system for boosting. You know, like he'd go in, he'd grab a chainsaw. I distract the dude that's at the counter, or vice versa. We like had an entire system. We go boost the shit, go return it another spot, get cash or get gift cards, but usually cash. You could get cash back then. We also did Nordstrom's a lot. And then we'd get in the car, go to Salinas, to the trains to Salinas, Chinatown. And we meet our dealer, and we'd always shoot up right there on the side of the freeway. We would never wait. Right when we got it, we would just pull over, fucking do a shot with our emergency lights on. Zero fucks given about law enforcement. Well, whatever. This is explainable. We're just shooting heroin on the side of the fucking freeway, just out of control. Few days go by, and I'm boosting like I'm trying to boost by myself, but I look like a junkie. I'm like going into stores like some fucked up, withered dinosaur. I'm like, wah! Like grabbing a chainsaw like that. It's like, Jesus Christ, dude. I look like Night of the Living Dead. My face was just completely open with scabs. That's the problem. Boosting when you look like that, they expect it. Like, oh, hey man, what are you doing? Shoplifting? All right. That's that kind of shit. And I knew it. And I was paranoid and I was sick and I just didn't give a fuck and I didn't know where Paul was. So I ended up going home. And I'm just by myself in my room. Needles everywhere. Probably beating off. It's dope sick. Probably watching the only beat off material I had. Heather Graham's sex scene from Boogie Nights on VHS that I watched over and over and over again. Also Clockwork Orange, but it's like the nudity's in a rape scene. So you can't really beat off to that because that's that. I mean, you shouldn't do shit like that. Like, well, man, this rape scene is fucking hot. Can't really do that. So Boogie Nights it was. Fortunately, there were some very sexy scenes in that film. So Paul finally calls me. I'd made a commitment to kick. I was like, I'm done. I'm fucking done. He calls me. He's like, hey, brother. I was like, where are you, dude? And he didn't have a phone, So I get a call from some random number. It's a Las Vegas number. It's like, I'm in Vegas, bro. What? You mean you're in Vegas? How'd you get there? He's like, dude, I found this chick. She's adorable. I chew on her asshole as if it was a bunny button. He said that. I never forget that quote, What does that mean, dude? He's like, it means I'm getting married, brother. And I love you. And I love everything. I'm like, oh, great. You met some raver fucking wacko girl. He's probably on a million different psychedelics thinking he's in love with this girl. He's in Las Vegas. Left me when I had already made the commitment where I was like, I'm done. I'm done. I just don't have the energy anymore. I remember I had Cookie Crisp cereal, and I would eat that shit without milk, just straight out of the box. I laid in bed. I didn't charge my phone. Just laid there. And I kicked cold turkey, eating Cookie Crunch, I'd have to pee. At first, I wasn't going to get up to go to the bathroom. First, I was rolling over and pointing my dick to the side and just like pissing on the side of my bed. That was like day 1. Okay, day 2, everyone knows, day 2 kicking heroin's the worst. Worst fucking day of them all. 2 and 3, horrible, awful. Day 1's whatever. You panic. Very psychological. By day 2, the physical, just torment that is heroin withdrawal kicks in. So I have to pee and I'm like, fuck it. Piss all over myself. Now, this was a problem because now I've set the standard. I've already peed on myself. Why not shit on myself? Everyone knows when you kick heroin, you have to shit a lot. And you get these farts that are, it's like, you feel like it's a Price is Right square. You're not certain what's behind there. Oh shit, I should probably do this over the toilet. You know, one of those, and then just shit just squirts out. Torpedoes out of your asshole. That kind of stuff, right? But everybody that's kicking kind of has the ability to clench their stomach and not let shit spill out of their butthole like that. As soon as I got one of those farts, I was like, instead of like squeezing my stomach together, I was just like, eh. And it was like a crazy one. Dude, there was so much shit, it like elevated me. Like I was laying down and I was like, oh my God. Jesus Christ, it was like hydraulics had like lifted me up, but it was my own shit. There was like this shit castle. I remember laying there, piss, right? And when you pee your pants, you ain't cool unless you pee your pants. When you piss your pants, you have to clean it. If you don't clean it, you get a rash. So now I have a fucking rash. Same rule with shit, by the way. I have all this like peanut butter creamy type shit all over me and it starts crusting over. So I have this I have like this red rash. I have these shitty pants where like it's mushed my boxers like to my ass. So like once in a while you'll just kind of like feel it peel off and it'll just hurt. Like some ass hairs will come out. You're like, fuck. Happy to say that I still beat off in this condition. It's the only thing that gives you relief. You know that if you've kicked. So I have shit, piss, and now I'm adding cum to the thing, which is just so vile. You know, it's just like, I'm sitting there, and I'm not putting Boogie Nights on. I'm just straight imagination. You know, Tom Clancying it. Cum and just, you know, I'm sure I cried. And from like an aerial view, I'm sitting there in bed, just have my boxers on. I have this huge rash. I have shit behind me. Cookie Crunch or whatever. Cookie Crisp, that's it. Cookie Crisp. I have that cereal just scattered all over the bed. And I remember just laying there and just kind of taking it, you know? It's like, all right, I'm just going to deal with this. This sucks, you know? I mean, it wasn't train spotting, babies crawling on the ceiling or anything. But I remember I did cry. I was just frustrated, you know, and in pain. Day goes by. Fucking front door comes crashing down. Comes open. I see some guy I've never seen before. I thought it was a cop or something. I was like, hey, he looks at me, he's like, and it was so corny, you know? I mean, I'm sure it was out of grave concern, but he's like, oh my God, Ryan. And he just starts crying. I was like, who the fuck? First of all, a simple knock would have sufficed. Secondly, why are you crying and why are you in my apartment? This is bad. This is worse than bad. And I'm just like, hey man. And I'm kicking. And I'm like, hey bro, get it together, man. Take it on the chin. Who the fuck are you? So he explains that he's one of my dad's good friends. He's a physician. My phone had been off. My dad knew that I was on heroin. He knows. He knew this last time when I was on it. He knows. When I told him, he's like, I knew you were. Like, you know, and he's very like understanding of it, you know. But he since he lived in Santa Barbara and I was up in Monterey, it's about 5 hours away. So he had a physician friend in the area and he explained to him like, hey, my junkie son's been missing. Can you go check on him? I guess the guy knocked. In my memory, I just saw the door come open. Some weirdo crying. Syringes everywhere. I'm covered in my own shit. There's cum, piss, probably smelled awful, and there's Cookie Crisp all over me. And he like came to try to like hug me, and you could see that this like waft of rancid shit just hit his nose. He's just like, I don't even know you. Oh, all of a sudden, you were just fucking crying. All of a sudden, you don't know me, huh? So he tells my parents the condition that I'm in, you know, freaks them out, of course. You know, I mean, I'm sure he sensationalized it, made it seem like I was the Freddy Krueger of junkies. my mom and dad come up. They see the condition I'm in. I mean, they're heartbroken. You know, I'm in really bad shape, like flirting with death, you know. And my dad's like, you gotta go back to treatment. Send you back to Florida. I was like, fuck. I'd just gotten back from that. My dad's like, you know, I'll get you a bottle of Vicodin from one of my physician friends just to get you through if you go. I was like, fuck, deal. Gives me a bottle of Vicodin, and I just started like eating them like Skittles. And I ended up getting on a plane and going to treatment in Florida. I didn't realize that there was so much material with Paul. I don't even remember what I covered in the last video, but it seems like this will turn into its own series. This will be a $10 series. But I appreciate you guys. We're at about an hour and 10 minutes. This will be for all tiers. I really wanted to get into his death, but I forgot just how long the stories are. All right. Much love to you. Really. Love you guys with all my heart. And I'm trying. I think I'm back. Pretty sure I'm back. Palabra.